We're putting on our detective hats today as we explore our review of Chronicles of Crime from Lucky Duck Games, which is a mystery-solving game for 1 to more than 1 players, and it involves solving a mystery using an app on your phone or tablet device.
That's right. Like many other of these detective games, you'll be solving a specific scenario. You'll be deciding through the app, choosing which one you want to do. You'll click it, and then it'll give you sort of a preface, finding a body in a certain location, which will then tell out which cards to start off with. The basic idea of the game is you'll be scanning cards through the app. Each card comes with a little QR code on it, and you'll be scanning them. And depending on how you are scanning it, different things may occur. You may just scan an item, in which case it'll just tell you what the item is. Or if you scan a person, it'll say, "Hi, how can I help you?" In which you can ask them questions by scanning things. So for example, if I want to ask this person about some food we found, if we found maybe some poisoned food, I scan her to talk to her and then scan that. If I want to ask her about a different person, I then scan that person. So it's really interesting because it pretty much allows for a lot of different variables, and if there is interaction, they'll just say I can't really help you there. There is a time element, so some of the cases maybe something will happen, or you need to wait till nightfall for certain things to occur or people to appear, which is another really interesting aspect. You'll actually find different clues to be put out. Some of them are a bit more special than others, like fingerprints. Sometimes you'll have to get to look through an environment, and what you get to do, if you have them, you don't have to use these, but we like to, is take these little VR glasses, put it on, and you get to look around the room. And let's say you look around a room and you see some weird papers on the ground. You scan the papers card, and it'll tell you if it's a clue or not. In which case it says add to the clue board, which as you can see, plenty of room for clues.
Lots of room. Yeah. If you aren't sure about something, you also have these helpful people over here that are always available for you. You can just give them a phone call. For instance, you've got the Intelligence Bureau. There's a hacker, so he can tell you about technology. The morgue is usually useful if you find a dead body, which you probably will. So these are always available. They're kind of good, like if you get stuck, you're just not sure where to go, they can help you, put you in a direction based on the evidence you've found.
Or even unlock new locations and stuff, so never overlook them. And finally, of course, there's solving the case. You can go to Scotland Yard and try to solve it. I'll ask you some questions, which is interesting because the way it answers is it's not multiple choice. It's scan the card for the answer. So for example, who killed this person? And you'll scan who you think it is, and it accepts them sometimes. Sometimes if you're way far off, it'll say, go back out there. And in the end, you can solve it. And I mean, it's a small thing, but it is nice if they can tell you, do you want to know all the answers afterwards? So in case you're like, okay, I have no idea how you're supposed to get that.
Right, or you could decide, don't tell me and I'll replay it and try to get a better score. So there's a little bit of replay value in that, even if you get through a mystery.
Yep.
One other thing, if you couldn't tell from how we were explaining it, there isn't really any turn sequence. Everybody is playing together at the same time and discussing. So it's one of those games where, and you're not you don't have a little figure to show where you are. It's all in the app. So you can talk to each other. Should we go to the city and talk to this person? Is that important? Do you think this evidence is important? A lot of it is talking to your friends.
Like in fact, all these games have this. It's just this one maybe hurts a little bit more. Like in Sherlock, we find that you can sort of play with some more people. One person's in charge of directory. One person's in charge of the map. One person takes turn reading the books, and you just rotate that. This doesn't, I don't think, work as well, so it feels like you do, once again, like all these, you want to keep it down to a low number.
The rulebook does suggest that you assign people one of these, and then they're kind of responsible for them. But it's not really sometimes some of these people you won't even want to talk to throughout an entire case. So it doesn't. And I think the fact that you're so focused on the app does make it feel like more of a solo experience, because especially on a phone, unless you have a big tablet, it's kind of hard to really share and show people what's going on there together.
Especially my phone, since its battery is terrible.
that could definitely be a concern. So I mean, we love these detective-style games. This game actually was on both of our top 10 lists for 2018. So there's definitely a lot to love here. The way that the app works, it is, I do think, really innovative and really cool. Scanning things, it feels very video game-like. Definitely harkens back to point-and-click adventure games where you kind of have an inventory of items and you talk to a person and they say, what do you want to know about?
And you throw everything at them.
Yeah, you go through every single thing.
What's also great is the way that it works also is you don't feel like this will never be used again. The food card could mean anything.
Yeah. No,
it really lets you think outside the box on what you're scanning. When you look around the room, I'm like, okay, now there is trash there, but there's also, it's Chinese food in there, so maybe I should scan the food card to find out if there's something to deal with that.
Yeah, I think it's really smart the way they categorize them. It seems like they covered all the basics that you would want, and from case to case, they can be used for different things. In the base, there is one set of scenarios that are actually linked, and then there are a couple that are standalone, and it's kind of neat. It's kind of like a repertory theater thing where sometimes different characters will show up again as different people. So they really get a lot of mileage out of these cards because they're not labeled specifically, so it's easy for them to come out with new cases, which they're already doing.
Which is perfect on the app. This insert, look, it just, you already have for the first 2 expansions locked in there spots in the hard, nice covering plastic. It's just, this is one of the best inserts I've ever seen.
The boy loves his insert. Let the boy have it. No, they did a really good job with all of that. I will say, even though this was on my top 10 list, I do have some small issues with it. Specifically, I think some of the writing isn't the best. Some of the dialogue. I wish there was a little more. Like, a lot of times you will talk to a person and they'll basically just go right into, what would you like to ask me about? I wish there was a little more almost cutscene style, like more flavor text to read before and after the mystery solving of that aspect. And another thing that I've seen people complain about is, and I think this really depends on who you are and how familiar you are with these types of games.
You know who you are.
Is there isn't even, you have these guys, but there isn't really a strict hint system. And I think sometimes you can get pretty stuck, just like those old point-and-click adventure games on PC that I love. And you might, for instance, like one case we did, there was something we just didn't find out, and after the fact, we just had no idea how to find that out. I'm personally kind of okay with that. I like to be challenged, but I think it could be frustrating for some groups. It's very open-ended, and I think that's for better or worse. Like, you really have your choice to go anywhere and do anything, you know?
Right, and going with your first problem,
yeah.
I think that's part of the, I guess one of the things you have to pay for to have such a generic system to allow for all the expansions. It's a little bit harder sometimes to make, this character only appears, in that story to make someone unique that you don't forget, because they want to make it so you can scan the people all the time, which...
It's a trade-off.
Yeah, it's a trade-off. And maybe you could probably do some later on, some expansion when you talk to them. Maybe they refuse a lot more unless you've done some other things a bit. Like, I don't feel like usually they're pretty open to talking to you. Like, I remember there was one guy who, he pretty much led us to a place that obviously no one would want us to see, without spoiling too much, because we said we showed him evidence of something like some footsteps leading there. But I feel like in real life there'd be a bit more elbow twisting needed or something like that.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little unclear how exactly, like, for instance, sometimes you'll accuse someone of a crime and you have evidence and it might just say, like, you arrest them, you send them to jail. There was one time in a scenario I played where someone admitted a crime to me and they just stayed there, and I could go and come back and keep talking to them, and I was like, shouldn't I arrest them? Like, I don't really know. They're working on a lot of, like we said, expansions and DLC, and maybe they just didn't always devote a ton of time to each individual case. But overall, I found the things that I was doing were really fun, especially... like in some of those later cases, like in that first kind of linked scenario, you get to do some cool things with these items that feel thematic and like you're actually doing them in a way, even though you are just going like this over cards. I really, really do love the overall system of the game.
Yeah, the overall scanning system that allows you to combine the people with the cards or with other people and locations just really is a fantastic system for this sort of mystery-solving genre.
Now let's uncover our crits and misses for Chronicles of Crime, starting with crits. The mysteries are tough, but they don't insult your intelligence and require you to think like a real detective. The game features a fun and innovative system revolving around its app, which includes scanning cards and even virtual reality.
Once again, we really enjoy app integration with board games, and this is definitely one of the best we've seen in a while.
Reusable cards make it easy for the designers to come out with new and easily implementable cases, whether you have an expansion or even just using DLC cases and the components that came in the box.
With the way the app is designed along with the cards, it pretty much allows you to have as many expansions as you want without having to buy more physical product.
The art style of the cards is clean and consistent, and we really like the way that they're packaged in the insert.
Let's discover some misses. Because the system is designed so components work regardless of the scenario, some things may seem a bit generic or not really fleshed out.
It's definitely a trade-off. I wish that some of the writing and dialogue was a little more memorable.
It can be a little frustrating in large groups, either taking turns with the phone or just feeling part of the investigation. The base alone may seem a little light relative to the number of cases compared to other detective solving games.
There are 5 scenarios included in the base, and they won't take you that long to get through. Fortunately, there are a number of DLCs and expansions in the works.
Chronicles of Crime is a real eye-opener into what apps can bring to the board game world. By using the app and even the little VR glasses, you really can have a lot of fun and brings something that makes it stand out compared to all the other mystery games.
It's definitely unlike pretty much any other game, even of this genre, that you're going to find. It's very unique, super innovative. We love virtual reality stuff, and even it's just a little thing of lenses on your phone. It's very simple, but it really does add a lot and make you feel more immersed in the world. It's cool.
Combined with the way you can scan and combine cards, it really makes things really interesting. It's not simple and obvious, like, okay, we need to go to this place, this point. You're like, should we ask this person about that item? They may know more about that. Mm-hmm. It really makes you think a bit more outside the box then. It's just that if only they could maybe add some more in-depth writing or maybe some weirder interactions. Maybe it's because they didn't want people like me whose phone batteries are terrible to not be able to last. I think that method is just so much fun.
There's so much potential. I would love it if they or maybe a third party somehow develops a thing where people can make their own fan cases. I think that would be great.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Something else that I appreciate about the game that we didn't mention is that I don't feel that it puts a lot of pressure on you. Even though there's a time limit, I felt compared to other games like Sherlock Holmes or Detective Modern Crime board game, you don't feel bad for exploring a lot. It's pretty lenient.
Yeah, no, I feel, comparatively speaking, like Detective in particular, that one you really are like, that one, I mean, it's more board gamey with you only have a limited time. This, while there is some time, I never felt like we were like, okay, that's going to take 5 minutes, that's going to take 25 minutes. We're just like, let's go there and find out what's happening.
Yeah, if you ask a guy like 50 questions in a row, it's not that bad. And they play with time too, in that sometimes you have to go somewhere at night. So that's pretty neat. Or a person will be in a place at a different time of day. Cool stuff.
Something may appear or disappear.
Something might happen, yes. Mm-hmm. Because of the app, it can be a little more dynamic that way.
No, the game that this actually made me think most was Mansions of Madness, how both of them use the app, I think, in such a really fun way that also, they're doing, unlike Mansions of Madness, I think, taking advantage of, we don't need to go and make another physical product to send out. We can just mess around with this to make another fun story.
Yeah, definitely very cool stuff. Easy to recommend this game if you like any kind of these narrative storytelling games, but I think especially if you like to play games solo or just with one other person, like 3 you can do, but I think that's like the max to really have fun with it.
I feel 3's my usual for any of these kind of detective games.
Yeah.
Usually that's the most you'll want.
But really, I think like 1 or 2, that's the sweet spot for sure. It's called Chronicles of Crime, and we give it a thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. 4 thumbs up?
I don't know. But we definitely enjoyed it a lot. Let us know if you've played any cases, what you think about it. Is there any expansions you think they should go into? For example, we didn't mention, because it's mostly the base, but the 2 expansions are actually, one's noir, and the other one is more like that 80s crime kid. So they're obviously willing to go to some maybe much different sort of genres. So let us know what your thoughts on that are. You can let us know in the comments down below. Of course, we'll read them. But there's plenty of other places. You can email us. You can, of course, Facebook, Instagram. Unfortunately, we do not have an app like they do that you can send us things.
We'll work on that. It's going to happen soon. Until that day, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this was a Roll for Crit review.
Don't forget to click that like button and, of course, subscribe for even more excellent videos.
I subscribed and now I'm rich.